Hello everybody. On today's video, I want to get into the case of Laci Peterson and just really discuss her life and if we think Scott really did murder her. Laci was born May 4th, 1975 to parents Sharon and Dennis Roca. It was said that during her life, she really had an idealistic childhood. She grew up on a farm. Her parents owned this really nice farm in West California, and growing up, Laci really developed a deep love of gardening, and it said that she was always playing in the farm as a child. Her parents would split up while she was actually pretty young, but they would still maintain a really good relationship, and Laci and her brother would actually go and play at the farm and visit on the weekends, even after her parents split. While in high school, Laci was super popular. She was a really, sociable cheerleader. She had lots of friends. She was very involved in every aspect of school and the extracurriculars. After high school, and this is sometime after in college, she would go and visit her friend who worked at this super little trendy restaurant called Morro Bay. And she would go there frequently to visit her friend and just hang out, college type of deal. And while she's there, she actually runs across a young Scott Peterson. And from that moment, she says when she sees Scott, she's like, oh my God, I know this is the guy for me. We're going to be together. And she gives him her phone number. And that same day, she calls her mother and she's like, Mom, I met the guy that I'm going to marry. And her mom's like, Laci, you're crazy. There's no way you could know this. You just met him. She's like, no, Mom, I met the guy that I'm going to be with and marry. So a little bit of time after that, Scott starts calling Laci and the two get into a relationship. And while things get more serious between Scott and Laci, it said that he gives up his dream of becoming this professional golf player, because ever since he was a child, that was his major dream. And it's actually said that he was pretty good at it, but he puts it to the back burner while he's getting serious with Laci. So, I guess it's one of the least selfish things Scott does, considering all we know he had done during their marriage. Well, Scott's family, they actually own so much properties and stuff. One of the little properties they did was they tried to open up this sports bar deal, and I guess it wasn't too successful because sometime after they actually closed that down, and Scott gets this house in Modesto that he would subsequently move into with his wife, Laci, and it was a really cute 2-bedroom bungalow. It was $177,000 at that time, and it was said that it was in an upper scale neighborhood. So, from all accounts, it's like they're living this American dream. Laci's feeling like she met the man that she's going to be with forever. And she's really taking on the role of wife, and she's looking forward to the day she becomes pregnant. She's working a little part-time job at that time while Scott's in school getting his stuff together. And she's really, contributing to her household and just being everything you would hope for in a partner. Well, later on, Laci gets this job being a substitute teacher, and she absolutely adores it. She's really good with these kids, and she's so happy. Scott just finishes up his schooling at that time and graduates, and he actually goes on to get a job at this newly founded European fertilizer company called Trade Corp. And he's making really good money at the time. He was making about $5,000 a month before all of his taxes, and this is in the early 2000s. So during this time, making $5,000 a month is you're at the higher end of the scale. This was really good. On top of him making that, Laci's were earning her side income doing the substitute teaching. So the two are not pressed for money, and they're in a really good situation that anybody could hope to be in. They have financial stability. They have this beautiful home. They've got lots of family support. By all accounts, this is the perfect relationship. And from people looking in at them, most people really truly believed that Scott and Laci were this perfect couple, no problems whatsoever. Shortly after they had moved in together, I forgot to mention this, but it was said that shortly after that time, that's when he actually began having his extramarital affairs. So while Laci is, you know, bragging about Scott, telling her family and friends how great he is, he's actually already running around with other women, all while Laci's at home being this perfect homemaker. And that's really sad to think about. You know, I'm not saying like this definitely means he was guilty, you know, but it's something to consider as a serious character flaw. Like, he was wasting this young lady's time, leading her on to believe she's living this perfect life with her Prince Charming, and literally the first time they move in together, they're newlyweds, and he's already running around with all these women. So to me, that's like a red flag on him. Like, he started exhibiting these signs early that he really truly didn't love Laci, because if he would have loved her the same way that she loved him, he wouldn't have been running around with all these women. I mean, that's common sense. So in 2002, Laci gets this great news. She's thinking this is amazing news. She gets the news actually that she's pregnant, and she was actually 7 months pregnant at this time. And she lets all of her family and friends know, like, I'm pregnant, me and Scott are gonna have a baby together, I'm so happy. We already planned to name this baby Connor. Like, everybody was so excited for Laci and Scott. And she tells them, you know, like, my due date's gonna be in February of 2003, it's soon. And around the same time, Scott's actually introduced to a massage therapist that we all know to be Amber Frey. And he begins having this romantic relationship with Frey, telling her how he's single, he's this eligible bachelor, you know. Meanwhile, his pregnant wife's at home, 7 months pregnant, and he's out there sneaking around, being dirty, telling women he's single and all of that. So you can just imagine, like, the type of man this is just from that. Like, you're gonna go out there and cheat on your pregnant wife, who loves you more than anything, brags on you, does everything for you, and you're out there cheating with this woman. Alright, so Laci actually goes missing on December 24th, and this is how her day began. Scott claims that he sees Laci earlier that morning before he leaves to go on a fishing trip, and he says, like, she's just regularly, you know, going about her morning. She's baking, she's cooking, she's watching her favorite shows, she's getting ready to mop the floor, and she's gonna take their family dog on a walk. So he goes out and about his day, doing whatever he's supposed to be doing, and Laci's supposedly at home, presumably just living her regular day. Scott returns home later that day, and he arrives and notices her car is there, but the house is empty. So he's like, well, maybe she just went for a walk, or she went somewhere with somebody else. He says he didn't think much of it right away. He takes all of his clothes off because he says they got wet during his fishing trip, and just puts them in the wash. He then starts to, after a while, be like, okay, now where's Laci? It's getting later. The dog's there with a muddy leash and collar, but Laci's not there. So at this point, he decides, like, you know what? I'm gonna need to report her missing and see what's going on with her, because she's still not here. So actually, whenever Scott's feeling like Laci's missing or something's wrong, the first thing he does is contact Laci's parents, which is actually Laci's mother and Laci's stepfather. The first person to actually phone the police and report Laci missing was actually her stepfather. And at this point, Scott's, you know, really starting to get a lot of heat from the police. The police get to his house, and immediately they're kind of focusing in on him since he was the last person to see her alive, and that's pretty common. So they're really looking at Scott and, you know, his whole day. Like, where did it start? Where did it end? What did he do in between? They're like, we want to know everything you're doing, Scott. Like, point period. And right away, detectives say that they noticed that there was a phone book on the counter, opened up, and it was on a page where they had a defense lawyer. So they're right away thinking, okay, this guy's already planning on getting a lawyer, and, you know, they're really suspicious about him. There's just a lot of things not making sense. All of Laci's things were at the house. Her purse, her car keys, all of her personal effects. she seemingly left with nothing. So her family's like, no, this is completely out of character for Laci. She would not leave all of her belongings, and the dog, she was with the dog. Like, the dog's back by himself. There's no sense to be made of that. Like, she would never do that. She was always with that dog and really responsible over him, and basically responsible with anything that was in her life. You know, Scott, the whole thing with his laundry rose a lot of questions. Like, people who believe him to be guilty or had something to do with it, they're like, he's definitely guilty because when he got home that day, he took those clothes off immediately and put them in the washer. Why didn't he just put the shit in the laundry basket? Why did he immediately put them in the washer? Is that suspicious? Yes. Does it happen? Yes. Does it make him guilty? No. But it is something that was taken note of, and detectives really made sure to make a note of that specific fact of Scott's day. And they also found it odd that he was leaving voicemails on her phone during certain time periods, asking her how she's doing, where she was. But it just seemed like that wasn't something he did on a regular basis, according to them. So they almost felt like he was trying to create an alibi for himself, essentially, by doing so. So the police were questioning Scott further and further during this time, and Scott's like telling them, I was fishing 90 miles away from the house during this day, so I was nowhere near. And right away, police launched a full investigation, bringing canine units and all types of people in to search his boat, his place of work, the house, you name it, they searched it. And there was actually, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but in the beginning of this investigation, I remember it was big in the headlines. They were like, we have found blood in Scott's boat. This was all over the news in the early 2000s. And I remember thinking, he did it. They got her blood in the boat. He's guilty. Nail him to the cross. Like, I was convinced that's her blood, you know, get him. And later on, they actually find out it's not even her blood. It's a freaking fish's blood. So again, they're back in the hole. And I just kind of feel like they never really had any strong physical evidence against Scott. Like, I feel like everything they had was subsequent and coincidental evidence. I mean, I know that you can get an indictment on these type of crimes. You know, there's been many cases where people are indicted just strictly off of coincidental stuff. But in Scott's case, I don't ever remember them saying, like, we have firm, you know, physical DNA evidence and whatever to tie Scott directly to this crime. Every little thing they had, like, he was a cheater, which made him a piece of shit. You know, like, he was creating false alibi, they say, for himself that day. They say, like, all that stuff, and I guess that's how they indicted him. But I just can't see any physical evidence, really. Like, I never remember them saying, we have DNA for him. That's the main thing that's got me wondering, like, if he really did it or not. I have a hard time believing based off of that. But also, like, I don't know if anybody else saw the discovery of the bodies. Whenever they finally discovered them, that time after, the baby was actually found, you know, ashore with his umbilical cord still attached, and supposedly he had like a slash mark on him. And my thing is even if Scott hated Laci or had some sort of resentment towards her because he wanted to move on with his life and be with Amber, why would he kill his baby? Like, that's what kind of gets me. Like, I could see him killing Laci if he was that type of crazy guy, but your baby? I mean, I guess it does happen. Crazier things have happened. But why would he try to take the baby out of her? Like, why not just do that? The reason why I think that somebody tried to remove that baby was because of the slash mark on him. Obviously, people say he could have came out during her death process, you know? But it just doesn't add up. You know how those people who do the C-section, when they try to steal a woman's baby, they do it from home? I'm sure some of you have heard about that Savannah Greywind case, where the neighbor actually took the baby out of her and then discarded of her body and thought she would raise that baby as her own. Crazy bitch. Well, my thing is, I think something similar happened to Laci. I think maybe somebody wanted her baby, someone who couldn't have a baby, or they were just psychotic, who knows? And during the process of removing the baby, maybe Laci died really quickly and the baby died. Maybe things went wrong. Maybe the cut hit the baby too deep, you know? And that's why the baby was discarded as well. That's just one theory that I was kind of thinking about, and that's why I have a hard time tying Scott to something like that. I mean, it's definitely possible. I'm not saying it hasn't happened before, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing something like that. And like I said, I don't ever remember them saying they had physical evidence to tie Scott directly to that crime. Never once. Another really crazy detail was they had a search party going on for Laci. A super big one, actually. I think there was over 500 volunteers at one point, and a huge reward had been offered for any information regarding Laci's disappearance. And it had gotten up to $500,000 actually. And they had so many volunteers in this huge call center for tips and everything going on. And Scott, they said, would come by and make these really cold appearances, and if there was ever any photos of him, he would immediately take them down, or, you know, be really elusive with the people there to help find his freaking wife. Maybe people were saying he didn't seem interested in any of it at all. And what really shocked a lot of people and made people believe he was really guilty was on one occasion, while people were out, you know, searching for his wife and doing all of this, he was actually telling Amber he's in another country on vacation doing shit, not telling her the truth. I'm here at this call center, my pregnant wife's missing, and this is what I'm doing. He's still lying. And during the peep searches and other stuff like that, there was times he was even out on dates with her, spending his time like he's just a regular free man. It's just wow, dude. He really had no remorse or heart for his pregnant wife and little baby that are missing. And that rubbed people wrong. You know, from that point on, people were really saying this dude's guilty, because no innocent person would be so cold-hearted towards their missing pregnant wife and unborn baby. The next thing people want to know and often wonder was, well, was Amber Frey involved in this, or did she have anything to do with this? Because as we know, Amber Frey was Scott's mistress, so a lot of people have to wonder, what did she know, or what did she know? So basically, Amber claims she never knew Scott was married or anything like that, that he always told her that, you know, he was single. So she really had no reason to not believe him or not trust him, which was up for debate a few times. People said no, she definitely knew, and then there's people who say, you know, she didn't know. But once she finds out that he may be linked in the disappearance of his wife, it's said that she completely flips out on him, and not to his face, but flips on him in the sense of she starts working for the police as an informant against Scott, essentially becoming a witness in court against him. So ultimately in 2005, Scott is convicted of first-degree murder and second-degree murder for the death of his unborn child, Connor. He was also sentenced to death by lethal injection in California. Amber did testify against Scott in court and participated as a witness for the state. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys know, but Scott was convicted based on a pair of pliers that he had in his boat, and it was said to have been with a piece of Laci's hair actually in the pliers, and this was the evidence used by the state to get this conviction. Let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think that that was enough evidence to convict Scott of the murders? I mean, her hair could have gotten there any type of way. They never really did find a murder weapon, DNA evidence beyond that hair to link Scott to that murder. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please remember to subscribe to my channel, because I really appreciate all of you guys' support. And if you did like it, give me a thumbs up. And if you know any other cases that are worth mentioning, please leave those comments down below. Bye.